Captain Daniel Wright looked out at the stars from the bridge of the USS Frontier. After 6 months in deep space, they had finally reached the Alpha Centauri system. This was the farthest humans had ever traveled from Earth. The crew of 30, men and women, were the best Earth had to offer, chosen from thousands of applicants for this historic mission. "Captain, we're picking up something strange," said Communications Officer Jack Monroe. His voice was steady, but his hands trembled slightly as they moved across his control panel. "It's big. Really big." Daniel walked over to look at Jack's screen. The object was massive, at least 3 miles long. It wasn't a natural formation. Its shape was too perfect, too symmetrical. "Is it moving?" Daniel asked. "Yes, sir. It's adjusting its course. I think it's coming toward us." The bridge fell silent. First Officer Samantha Brown joined them at the communications station. She was usually the calmest person on the ship, but even she looked worried. "Should we ready weapons, Captain?" she asked quietly. Daniel considered this. Their mission was peaceful exploration, but they weren't defenseless. Still, whatever this object was, it was far more advanced than anything humans had built. "No. We maintain peaceful posture. But put the crew on alert status," he decided. "Let's see what we're dealing with first." The object grew larger on their view screen. It wasn't just big. It was beautiful. The surface shimmered with lights that pulsed in patterns, like a language written in illumination. As it drew closer, they could see it wasn't just one solid structure but a collection of smaller ships connected together, forming something that looked like a small moon. "We're receiving a transmission," Jack announced, surprise clear in his voice. It's in English." "Put it through," Daniel ordered. A deep, resonant voice filled the bridge. "Greetings, children of Earth. We are the Voidborn. We have been watching your journey among the stars with great interest. We would be honored if you would accept our invitation to come aboard." Daniel exchanged glances with Samantha. Children of Earth? The phrasing was odd, almost parental. "This is Captain Daniel Wright of the USS Frontier, representing Earth. We accept your invitation and would be honored to meet you." They prepared a small team to visit the alien vessel. Daniel selected Samantha, ship's xenobiologist Lieutenant Karen Mitchell, and Security Officer Greg Patterson to accompany him. They boarded a shuttle and approached the massive structure. As they neared, an opening appeared in the side of the vessel. Light spilled out, guiding them in. The shuttle's controls suddenly took over, gently bringing them into a vast docking bay that could have held 100 ships their size. When they stepped out of the shuttle, they got their first look at the Voidborn. They were tall, nearly 7 feet, with slender bodies and skin that seemed to shimmer with a faint blue luminescence. Their eyes were large and completely black, yet somehow conveyed warmth and wisdom. One of them approached, walking, with fluid grace. "I am Zorath, representative of the Elder Council. Welcome to our vessel, humans." Karen gasped softly. "You look almost human," she whispered. Zorath tilted his head. "An interesting observation. Please follow me. The elders are eager to meet you." They walked through corridors that seemed to be made of living crystal. The walls pulsed gently with light that responded to their presence. Along the way, they passed display cases containing artifacts from what appeared to be thousands of different civilizations. Karen slowed as they passed one display. "Captain, look at this." Inside was what appeared to be an ancient stone tool, similar to those used by early humans on Earth. Next to it was a strand of DNA, represented in a 3-dimensional hologram. Part of the sequence was highlighted. "That's human DNA," Karen said, her voice filled with wonder. "But why would they have that here?" Before Daniel could respond, Zorath called them forward. They entered a large circular chamber where 3 older Voidborn sat in crescent-shaped chairs. Their skin was paler than Zorath's, and the luminescence was fainter, but their eyes held the same deep wisdom. "The human delegation from Earth," Zorath announced. The central elder rose. "I am Valor, first elder of the Voidborn. We welcome you, travelers from Earth. You have accomplished much in a short time. Thank you, Daniel replied. We're surprised you speak our language. Valor made a gesture that might have been a smile. We have been observing Earth for many centuries. Your languages are simple to learn for us. We are the progenitors, the first sentient species to evolve in this universe over 2 billion years ago. The humans exchanged shocked glances. 2 billion years was almost half the age of Earth itself. That's hard to believe, Samantha said carefully. Yet it is true, said another elder. We have witnessed the birth of galaxies, the formation of stars, the slow evolution of life across the cosmos. Karen stepped forward. If I may ask, why have you been watching Earth? The elders looked at each other, and something passed between them. Some silent communication. We have been searching, Valor said finally. For a very long time we have been searching. For what? Daniel asked. For those who were lost, Zorath replied softly. His gaze moved from one human to another with an expression that looked strangely like longing. There is much to discuss, but perhaps it would be best if we showed you. They were led to another chamber, this one dominated by a large crystal sphere in the center. When Valor placed his hand on it, the sphere filled with light, projecting images all around them. They saw Earth as it was millions of years ago, with different continents and strange creatures roaming its surface. Then they saw something else, a void-born ship, similar to the one they were on now, approaching ancient Earth. The images showed void-born walking among early hominids, studying them, collecting samples. We have visited many worlds over our long history, Valor explained. Earth was special to us, though we did not fully understand why until recently. The images changed again, showing void-born working in what appeared to be laboratories, examining DNA sequences. When your ship entered deep space and we detected your transmission signals, we knew we had to meet you, Zorath said. There is a connection between our species that goes back further than you can imagine. As the humans watched the projected history unfold before them, Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. Something told him their understanding of human origins was about to change forever. What kind of connection? He asked. Valor approached him, studying his face with those ancient eyes. Captain Wright, your people have long wondered if you were alone in the universe. The truth is far more profound than you have imagined. You were never alone. You are, in the most literal sense, our children. As the meeting concluded, Zorath handed Daniel a small crystal device. Take this back to Earth. Study it. It contains information that will help you understand who you truly are. When you are ready, return to us. We have waited a very long time for this moment. The humans returned to their shuttle, their minds reeling with questions. As they flew back to the frontier, Karen examined the crystal. What do you think they meant, Captain? She asked. That we're their children? Daniel stared at the alien vessel growing smaller in their view. I don't know. But I think we're about to discover that human history is much older and much stranger than we ever imagined. The USS Frontier returned to Earth with news that shocked the world. Governments across the planet scrambled to understand what the encounter with the Voidborn meant for humanity. The crystal device given to Captain Wright was taken to the United Nations Space Command headquarters in Geneva. Dr. Alan Garcia led the team studying the strange object. He was the top scientist in human genetics and had spent 20 years researching human evolution. The crystal sat on a special platform in his lab surrounded by scanning equipment. For 3 days nothing happened. The crystal remained silent and impenetrable to all their tests. I don't understand, Dr. Garcia said, rubbing his tired eyes. We've tried everything. His assistant, Dr. Olivia Bennett, studied the crystal with frustrated curiosity. She was younger than Garcia, with a reputation for thinking outside normal scientific boundaries. Maybe we're overthinking this, she suggested. The Voidborn seemed to want us to access this information. Perhaps it's something simple. She reached out and touched the crystal directly. At her touch, the crystal began to glow with a soft blue, Light. The same color as the void-born skin. How did you know to do that? Garcia asked in surprise. Olivia shook her head. I didn't, it just felt right. The crystal projected a three-dimensional image into the air above it. Star maps appeared, showing Earth and nearby systems. Then the images shifted to show recordings of void-born ships approaching prehistoric Earth over 200,000 years ago. The scientists watched in amazement as the recordings showed void-born walking among early humans. They appeared to be collecting samples and performing procedures on willing human subjects. The recordings had no sound, but the meaning was clear. The void-born had been working with ancient human DNA. This is impossible, Garcia whispered. These recordings would rewrite human evolutionary history. The crystal continued its presentation, showing void-born in laboratories, manipulating genetic samples. Then it displayed human DNA sequences, highlighting specific sections. Olivia pointed excitedly. Those highlighted sections, that's what we call junk DNA, parts that don't seem to code for anything. Garcia nodded slowly. We've never fully understood those sections. They've always been a mystery. The crystal's display shifted to show void-born DNA alongside human DNA. Certain sections matched perfectly. We need to check this against real human DNA samples, Garcia said. His voice trembled with excitement and fear. Over the next week, they analyzed hundreds of human DNA samples from people across the world. What they found confirmed the crystal's message. Certain sections of human junk DNA matched void-born genetic markers perfectly. These dormant genes appeared to contain extremely advanced biological coding that had remained inactive throughout human evolution. Meanwhile, Captain Wright received new orders. He was to lead a second expedition to meet the void-born, this time with a delegation of Earth's top scientists, including Dr. Garcia and Dr. Bennett. The USS Frontier was resupplied and prepared for another journey to Alpha Centauri. What do you think they want from us? Samantha asked Daniel as they prepared for departure. Daniel shook his head. I don't know, but I think they've been waiting for us for a very long time. The journey back to the void-born vessel took 6 months. During that time, strange things began happening aboard the Frontier. Crew members reported vivid dreams of ancient starscapes and civilizations they had never seen. Dr. Bennett started keeping a dream journal, noting the recurring images of stars and planets that appeared in her sleep. When they arrived at the meeting point, the void-born ship was waiting for them. This time, a larger delegation boarded the alien vessel. Dr. Garcia and Dr. Bennett brought their findings, eager to discuss them with the ancient aliens. Elder Zorath greeted them warmly. You have studied the crystal. You have begun to understand. We found matching DNA sequences, Dr. Garcia said, but we don't understand what it means. Zorath led them to a large chamber where the other elders waited. The walls of the room showed moving images of galaxies and star systems. It is time for you to learn the full truth, Elder Valor said. Please sit. The humans sat in chairs arranged in a circle. The lights dimmed, and the ceiling above them transformed into a view of the universe as it looked billions of years ago. Our civilization is the oldest in this galaxy, Valor began. We evolved on a world that no longer exists, orbiting a star that died 6 billion years ago. As we developed interstellar travel, we spread throughout the galaxy. The ceiling showed void-born, ships traveling between stars, establishing colonies on distant worlds. One such colony ship was sent to your solar system, long before your species existed. Zorath continued. This was over 200 million years ago. The ship carried thousands of our kind. The images showed a massive void-born vessel approaching Earth. When it looked very different, the continents were joined together in one large landmass. The colony ship experienced a catastrophic failure and crashed on your world, Valor said. There were survivors, but they were stranded. Their communication systems were destroyed. They could not contact our civilization. Dr. Bennett leaned forward. What happened to them? They studied the primitive life forms on your world. They realized they would never be rescued. Space is vast, and we had no way of knowing where they had crashed. So they made a decision that would change the course of 2 species forever. The images shifted to show Voidborn working with early mammals that existed on Earth at that time. They chose to integrate their genetic material with the most promising, indigenous species, Zorath explained. Not to create servants or experiments, but to ensure their legacy would continue in some form. They hoped that one day, their descendants would reach the stars and find their way back to us. Captain Wright stared at the images in disbelief. Are you saying that humans are descendants of those stranded Voidborn? Yes and no, Valor replied. You are a unique hybrid species. The Voidborn survivors added their genetic material to your evolutionary line, but they did not replace it. You evolved naturally on Earth, carrying within you dormant fragments of our genetics. You are both human and Voidborn, something entirely new. But why didn't these genes express themselves? Dr. Garcia asked. Why have they remained dormant? They were designed to remain inactive until your species reached a certain level of development, Zorath explained. The survivors were wise. They did not want to interfere with your natural evolution. They wanted you to become your own species, to develop your own civilization, but they left the potential within you, waiting to be awakened when you were ready. And you believe we're ready now? Samantha asked. The elders looked at each other, communicating silently. We believe you are beginning to be ready, Valor said finally. Your venture into interstellar space was the first sign. The DNA within you is stirring. Dreams of stars and ancient memories. These are the first awakening of the Voidborn heritage within your cells. Dr. Bennett gasped softly. The dreams the crew has been having? Yes, Zorath nodded. The dormant genes are responding to your proximity to us. They recognize their origin. Captain Wright looked around at his fellow humans, seeing the shock and wonder on their faces. What happens now? Now, Valor said, we help you understand who you truly are. You are not merely an experiment. You are our long-lost children finally finding your way home. Dr. Olivia Bennett could not sleep. The revelation that humans carried Voidborn DNA kept her mind racing with questions and possibilities. She paced her small cabin aboard the USS Frontier, reviewing her notes again and again. The Voidborn had explained that the dormant alien genes in human DNA could be activated. The process would be safe, they claimed, but would transform the volunteer in ways that were difficult to predict. The human and Voidborn delegations had spent days discussing the implications. A soft knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. Come in, she called. Lieutenant Peter Johnson entered. He was young, barely 30, with a quiet confidence that made him respected among the crew. Sorry to bother you so late, Dr. Bennett, he said, but I've made my decision. I want to volunteer for the activation process. Olivia studied his face. Are you sure? We don't know exactly what will happen. Peter nodded. I'm sure. I've thought about it carefully. If what the Voidborn say is true, this could be the next step in human evolution. Someone needs to go first. The next morning, Olivia presented Peter's offer to Captain Wright and the Voidborn elders. After lengthy discussions, they agreed to proceed. The activation would take place on the Voidborn vessel, where their medical technology could monitor the process closely. Peter lay on a platform in the Voidborn medical chamber. The room was filled with equipment that looked like a blend of advanced technology and organic material. Elder Zorath stood with several Voidborn medical specialists, while Dr. Bennett, Captain Wright, and Dr. Garcia observed from nearby. The procedure will take approximately 6 hours, Zorath explained. We will use targeted energy fields to activate specific gene sequences in Lieutenant Johnson's DNA. He will remain conscious but may experience unusual sensations. Peter took a deep breath. I'm ready. The Voidborn placed a mesh of thin, silvery wires over Peter's body. When they activated the system, the wires began to glow with soft blue light. Peter's body tensed initially, then relaxed. How do you feel, Lieutenant? Olivia asked. Strange, Peter replied. I feel like I'm remembering things I never experienced. Over the next 6 hours, Peter reported a stream of vivid images and sensations. He described ancient cities on worlds no human had ever visited. He spoke of concepts and technologies that were beyond current human understanding. At times he would lapse into a language none of the humans recognized, but which the Voidborn understood perfectly. When the procedure was complete, Peter sat up slowly. He looked the same physically, but something in his eyes had changed. They seemed deeper somehow, as if they were looking at the world through layers of time and memory. "Peter?" Olivia approached him cautiously. "How do you feel?" He turned to her, his expression one of wonder. "I feel expanded, like my mind has grown beyond its previous boundaries." He looked at his hands as if seeing them for the first time. "I can remember things, not just my own memories, but older ones, ancient ones." Over the next few days, the changes in Peter became more apparent. His cognitive abilities expanded exponentially. He could perform complex calculations in seconds. He developed limited telepathic abilities, able to sense the emotions and sometimes catch fragments of thoughts from those around him. Most remarkably, he had perfect recall of ancestral memories stretching back thousands of generations. Word of Peter's transformation spread quickly among the crew. Many were frightened by the changes, but others were fascinated. 5 more crew members volunteered for the activation process. Each experienced similar transformations, though the specific abilities and memories varied from person to person. Back on Earth, news of the activations sparked intense debate. Some governments expressed fear about creating a superior class of humans. Religious leaders questioned the implications for human identity and the soul. Scientists were divided, some eager to explore this new frontier, others warning of unforeseen consequences. Captain Wright found himself mediating not only between Earth and the Voidborn, but also between the transformed and untransformed members of his own crew. "What exactly do you remember?" he asked Peter during a private meeting. Peter's eyes looked distant. "It comes in fragments. I see Earth as it was millions of years ago. I feel the despair of the stranded Voidborn, knowing they would never return to their people. I sense their hope when they decided to merge their genetic material with Earth species." He paused. "And I remember stars, Captain. Stars as they looked billions of years ago, when the Voidborn were young." Meanwhile, Dr. Bennett spent hours interviewing the transformed crew members, documenting their experiences and new abilities. She discovered that they could access not only genetic memories of Earth's history, but also fragments of ancient Voidborn knowledge. During one session, Peter suddenly looked up, his eyes wide with realization. "The Voidborn, they're dying," he said. "What do you mean?" Olivia asked. "As a species, I can feel it in the memories. They've been in decline for millions of years, their birth rates falling, their numbers dwindling." He touched his temple as if sorting through the fragments of memory. "That's why finding us was so important to them. We're not just their descendants, we're their future." The Voidborn confirmed Peter's insight. Elder Valor explained that their civilization had been slowly fading for eons. Despite their advanced technology and vast knowledge, they had been unable to reverse their decline. "We have been searching the cosmos for our lost children for millions of years," Valor said. "We detected faint genetic signatures from thousands of worlds, but never found the source until humanity ventured into space." "Why didn't you contact us sooner?" Captain Wright asked. "You've been watching Earth for centuries." "We needed to wait until you were ready," Zorath replied. "Until you had developed enough to understand who you are and what it means." Dr. Garcia, who had been analyzing the genetic data from the transformed humans, made an important discovery. "The human evolutionary path created something unique," he explained to the group. "Our DNA maintained the core Voidborn sequences, but adapted them through natural selection. We're not just carrying their genes, we've improved upon them." This revelation changed how both species viewed each other. The Voidborn had initially seen humans as their lost children, but now they began to see them as their salvation. A younger, more vital branch of their species that had evolved in isolation, but retained the essential qualities that made the Voidborn the dominant species in the early universe. As more humans underwent the activation process, they began working together, combining their awakened abilities in new ways. They formed connections with each other and with the Voidborn, bridging the gap between the two species. But not everyone welcomed this development. On Earth, some governments began restricting the activation process, fearful of its implications. Others embraced it, seeing it as humanity's birthright. Captain Wright found himself at the center of a growing storm. "We're standing at a crossroads," he told his officers. "What happens next will determine not just the future of humanity, but the future of the oldest species in the universe as well." As tensions grew, Peter and the other transformed humans sensed something else through their awakened memories. A distant threat, something the Voidborn had faced before. Something they had been running from for billions of years. "There's danger coming," Peter told Captain Wright. "And I think that's the real reason the Voidborn needed to find us. They need our help as much as we need theirs." 6 months after the first humans activated their dormant Voidborn genes, Earth received a distress signal. The message came from the Voidborn homeworld, a planet orbiting an ancient star 20 light-years from Earth. Captain Daniel Wright was in a meeting with world leaders when the transmission arrived. "We need your help," Elder Zorath's voice crackled through the speakers. "The harvesters have returned. We do not have much time." The signal cut off abruptly. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Who or what are the harvesters? Asked the President of the United Nations. Captain Wright looked to Peter Johnson, who had become the unofficial spokesperson for the transformed humans. In the past months, Peter's abilities had continued to develop. His mind now contained vast stores of Voidborn knowledge, though much of it remained fragmented and incomplete. Peter closed his eyes, searching through his ancestral memories. "The Void Harvesters," he said slowly. "They're ancient enemies of the Voidborn. They exist partially outside normal space-time. They're hunters. They feed on the unique life energy of the Voidborn." "Why haven't the Voidborn mentioned them before?" Daniel asked. "Because they believed the harvesters were gone," Peter replied. "The Voidborn once possessed powerful mental abilities that could repel the harvesters, but as their species aged, these abilities diminished. The last harvester attack was millions of years ago. They thought they were safe." Dr. Olivia Bennett, who had been working closely with the transformed humans, spoke up. "The activated humans, we might be able to help. Our hybrid DNA seems to have preserved those mental abilities the Voidborn have lost." The world leaders debated what to do. Some argued that this was not Earth's fight. Others felt a responsibility to help their newly discovered ancestors. In the end, they agreed to send aid. A joint human Voidborn fleet would travel to the Voidborn homeworld. Preparations moved quickly. 10 Earth ships, including the USS Frontier, were retrofitted with Voidborn technology. The transformed humans, now numbering nearly 100, formed specialized defensive teams. Captain Wright would command the fleet with Peter Johnson and Dr. Bennett leading the defense strategy. Before departing, Daniel met with Elder Valor, who had remained on Earth as an ambassador. "What exactly are we facing?" Daniel asked. Valor's ancient eyes were filled with concern. "The harvesters are unlike any enemy you have encountered. They do not want territory or resources. They want us, our essence, our life force. They have hunted us across the galaxy for billions of years. Why are they attacking now after all this time?" "We believe they sensed the awakening of the dormant genes in humans. The activation created a surge of energy they could detect, even across vast distances." "So this is our fault?" Daniel asked, troubled. "No," Valar said firmly. "This was inevitable. The harvesters would have found us eventually. But now, for the first time in eons, we have hope. The human evolution on Earth gave you advantages we pure Voidborn lack. Adaptability, creativity, and a unique resilience formed through millennia of survival on a challenging planet." The fleet departed, Earth a week later. The journey would take 3 months even with the enhanced engines. During this time, the transformed humans began collaborating, combining their awakened abilities to create powerful psychic shields. Dr. Bennett observed these sessions with fascination. It's remarkable, she told Daniel. Individually, their abilities are impressive but limited. Together, they can create defensive fields that could potentially block the Harvester's attacks, Peter explained further. The Voidborn memories show that the Harvesters attack by phasing partially into our reality. They create distortions in space-time that disrupt both technology and living tissue. But our minds can generate counter-frequencies that stabilize these distortions. As they traveled deeper into space, the transformed humans began experiencing disturbing visions. They sensed the Harvesters, shadowy entities moving through the void between stars. These creatures had no fixed form, shifting between states of energy and matter. 2 months into their journey, they received another transmission from the Voidborn homeworld. The situation had worsened. 3 outlying Voidborn colonies had already fallen to the Harvesters. The homeworld was under siege. "We must increase our speed," Daniel ordered. The engineers pushed the engines beyond their recommended limits, shaving 2 weeks off their travel time. As they approached the Voidborn solar system, they got their first direct view of the Harvesters. The ship's sensors detected massive energy distortions surrounding the homeworld. Through these distortions, shadowy shapes moved, rippling through space like living tears in reality. "Battle stations," Daniel commanded. "All ships form defensive. Perimeter. Activate the psychic shield network." The transformed humans linked their minds together, creating a protective field around the fleet. As they entered the system, the Harvesters sensed them. Several of the shadow entities broke away from the planet and moved toward the approaching ships. "They're fast," Samantha Brown warned from her tactical station. The first attack came suddenly. A Harvester passed through one of the Earth ships at the edge of the formation. As it did, the ship's systems failed and crew members collapsed, their life energy drained in seconds. "Fire all weapons," Daniel ordered. The fleet unleashed a barrage of energy weapons, modified with Voidborn technology. The beams passed through the Harvesters with little effect. "Conventional weapons won't work," Peter said urgently. "We need to adjust the shields." The transformed humans changed their mental approach, focusing not on blocking the Harvesters, but on disrupting their phase-shifting abilities. This forced the creatures to fully materialize in normal space-time, making them vulnerable. "Now," Peter shouted. The fleet fired again. This time their weapons found targets. 3 Harvesters dissipated into clouds of energy that quickly faded away. But there were hundreds more. The battle became desperate as the fleet fought its way to the planet. 2 more human ships were lost, along with 1 Voidborn vessel. The remaining ships formed a tighter formation, with the transformed humans working in shifts to maintain the protective fields. When they finally reached the Voidborn homeworld, they found it surrounded by a swirling vortex of Harvesters. The planet's defensive systems were still functioning but weakening. "We need to land and join forces with the planetary defenses," Daniel decided. The USS Frontier and 2 other ships broke through the siege, landing at the main Voidborn city. The scene that greeted them was one of destruction and resistance. The beautiful crystal structures of the Voidborn civilization were cracked and darkened. Defenders fought against shadowy entities that phased in and out of walls and solid ground. Elder Zorath greeted them, looking weary but relieved. "You came. We feared you would not arrive in time." "We need to coordinate our defenses," Daniel said. "Our transformed humans have found ways to disrupt the Harvesters' phase shifting." Peter stepped forward, his mind already connecting with the Voidborn defenders. "We can create a planet-wide psychic network, but we'll need to access your central consciousness temple." As they rushed through the besieged city, Daniel realized that this battle would determine the fate of not just the Voidborn, but potentially humanity as well. If the Harvesters could not be stopped here, Earth would eventually be their next target. The future of both species now depended on the unique abilities of humans who had awakened their ancient Voidborn heritage, the children, finding strength to save their long-lost parents. The central consciousness temple of the Voidborn stood at the heart of their city. It was a tall structure made of living crystal that pulsed with blue light. Despite the battle raging around them, the temple remained untouched. The Harvesters seemed unable or unwilling to approach it directly. Captain Daniel Wright, Peter Johnson, and Dr. Olivia Bennett rushed inside with Elder Zorath. The interior was a vast open space with a crystal sphere floating in the center. Around the sphere, dozens of Voidborn stood with their eyes closed, their minds linked together in a communal defense. "This is our most sacred place," Zorath explained. "Here, we can join our minds together. But our mental powers have weakened over the millennia. We cannot generate enough energy to repel the harvesters completely." Peter stepped forward, his eyes fixed on the floating crystal. "I understand now. This crystal amplifies mental energy. If we connect our transformed humans to this network, we might create a shield powerful enough to drive the harvesters away." Zorath nodded. "Yes, but such a connection has never been attempted with your kind. The strain could be dangerous." "We have no choice," Olivia said. She had undergone the activation process herself a month earlier and could now sense the harvesters' presence like a cold shadow on her mind. Daniel looked concerned. "What's the risk?" "Mental burnout," Peter said quietly. "Possibly worse. But if we do nothing, both our species will be lost." They sent an urgent message to the fleet. All transformed humans who could be spared from ship defense were to come to the temple immediately. Within the hour, 63 transformed humans had joined them. They stood around the crystal sphere, forming a circle with the Voidborn. "Focus your minds on protection," Zorath instructed. "Imagine a wall of light pushing back the darkness." The humans and Voidborn joined hands. As they connected to the crystal, it began to glow more brightly. The light pulsed outward in expanding rings, passing through the walls of the temple and spreading across the city. Outside, the effect was immediate. The harvesters that had been phasing through buildings and streets were suddenly forced into solid form. Their shadowy bodies became visible, twisted masses of dark energy that writhed in apparent pain. In orbit, the fleet saw the wave of light expanding from the planet. The harvesters surrounding the world tried to retreat, but the energy field moved too quickly. Hundreds of the creatures were caught and forced to materialize. "All ships, fire on the materialized targets," Samantha ordered from the bridge of the USS Frontier. The fleet unleashed every weapon they had. The now vulnerable harvesters could not withstand the assault. They dissolved into clouds of dark particles that quickly dispersed. In the temple, the linked minds of humans and Voidborn pushed harder, expanding the field beyond the planet to encompass the entire star system. The strain was enormous. Several of the humans collapsed, blood trickling from their noses and ears. Even Peter was shaking with the effort. "We can't maintain this much longer," he gasped. "We don't need to," Zorath replied. "We just need to drive them far enough away." The field continued to expand for another 10 minutes. When it finally reached the edge of the solar system, the remaining harvesters fled, disappearing into the depths of space. The humans and Voidborn broke their mental connection, many falling to their knees in exhaustion. 5 of the humans had died from the strain, their minds burned out by the immense energy they had channeled. Dozens more were unconscious, but they had won. For the first time in billions of years, the harvesters had been driven back decisively. The next few days were filled with both celebration and mourning. The Voidborn honored the humans who had given their lives with a ceremony that involved capturing their essence in small crystal shards that would be preserved for eternity in the temple. As the injured recovered and the fleet made repairs, the leaders of both species met to discuss the future. "The harvesters will return eventually," Elder Valor warned. The ancient Voidborn had arrived from Earth to see the homeworld for the first time in centuries. But now we know they can be defeated. Together, our species are stronger than either would be alone. Captain Wright nodded. "This seems like the beginning of a formal alliance." "More than an alliance," Valor replied. "A reunification. Our council has voted to recognize humans as our rightful descendants and equals." The news was sent back to Earth, where it was received with mixed emotions. Some celebrated the connection to the ancient species, while others feared losing human identity. But as more details of the battle reached Earth, opinion shifted. humans and Voidborn had fought side by side against a common enemy. They had saved each other. Over the next months, a new relationship formed between the species. The Voidborn offered to share their vast knowledge accumulated over billions of years. Humans provided the vitality and fresh perspective the ancient species had lost. The activation process was refined to be safer and more controlled. It became available to all humans who chose it. Not everyone did, but enough to create a growing population of transformed humans who could act as bridges between the two civilizations. 1 year after the battle, a ceremony was held at a newly constructed space station orbiting Earth. Representatives from both species gathered to sign what became known as the Reunification Accord. The station was named Homecoming, symbolizing the completion of a 2-billion-year journey. As Daniel, now Admiral of the Joint Fleet, signed the document alongside Elder Zorath, he reflected on how much had changed in such a short time. Did your ancestors ever imagine this outcome when they merged their DNA with our primitive ancestors? He asked Zorath. The Voidborn smiled, an expression he had adopted from his human friends. They hoped, perhaps, but I doubt they could have foreseen the remarkable species humans would become. Olivia Bennett, who had been leading research into combining human and Voidborn science, joined them at the window overlooking Earth. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now we look to the future," Zorath replied. "There is so much of the universe we have yet to explore, and so much we can learn from each other." Peter Johnson stood nearby with several other transformed humans. Their abilities had continued to develop in unexpected ways. They had learned to access more of the ancient knowledge hidden in their genes without the strain that had killed their comrades during the battle. "There are more species out there," Peter said. "Some friendly, some not. But none as old as the Voidborn, and none as adaptable as humans." As the ceremony concluded, Admiral Wright addressed the gathered representatives. "Today marks not an end, but a beginning. For billions of years, the Voidborn were the guardians of knowledge in our galaxy. Now together, we will be the explorers of its future." The combined human-Voidborn fleet was already preparing for its first mission of exploration. Ships crewed by both species would venture into regions of space the Voidborn had never fully explored, seeking new civilizations and perhaps other lost colonies. As the ships departed Earth orbit, Elder Valar shared an ancient Voidborn proverb with Admiral Wright. "The circle of existence is never broken, merely expanded. In you, we have found not just our past but our future." The humans and Voidborn, once separated by time and space, now moved forward together as one reunified family, combining the wisdom of the universe's oldest civilization with the boundless potential of its most adaptable children.